Good evening. Great to once again be back in this beautiful building. Not having to do this by Zoom. I can't tell you how pleased I am to see all of you and actually know you're here. Feels much better than that Zoom stuff, although it was necessary for a time. Thank you again. I would like to call to order this regular meeting of the Ascension Parish Council here in our courthouse in Gonzales. I would like to ask Councilman Melanson to lead us in the pledge, and he will follow that with the invocation, and he'll follow that with the pledge.
Good evening, everyone. Before we say prayer, I'd like to ask everyone to keep myself and my family in your prayers. Lost my grandmother this past Saturday after a tough bout with cancer. And we're going to put her to rest this upcoming Saturday, which would have been my grandparents' 63rd wedding anniversary. So she was a tough old bird. I think they coined the phrase "dynamite comes in small packages" after someone met her, because she was feisty. So I appreciate it. Thank you. Heavenly Father, please allow us to conduct our business in a professional manner and do the work for the people of the parish in the best way we know how. May we disagree respectfully, and may we continue to do what we believe is best for one another and for everyone involved. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, we are missing only Councilman Ogeron. Everyone else is present. The chair will have additions this evening of a resolution that will be delivered by Mr. Ken Dawson, and it will need a vote. So we need to have a unanimous vote to approve that. And then we have a resolution of censure that will come also at around item 5, and we'll need a unanimous decision to approve that.
Motion to add both agenda items.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to add both agenda items. Are there any objections?
Is that okay, Cinnamon? Can we do both items with one motion?
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to add Mr. Dawson's presentation.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to add Mr. Ken Dawson's resolution. Are there any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes.
I'd like to add the agenda item resolution of censure.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second for resolution of censure. Are there any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. I have to housekeep here on this piece of paper, so give me just a second. We do have a public comment period. If you would like to speak on any item on this agenda, even those that have been added, please come to Cinnamon, get your red, green, or white card, fill that out, make sure Cinnamon there on the corner gets it, and she will get that to us here once she has gotten them straight about who wants to speak and who doesn't, and then we will go from there. You'll be called up at the appropriate time for you to speak, and you will have 3 minutes. I do want to make a mention that those people who are here this evening for items that are, let's see exactly how we worded those, condemnation proceedings, we will not be limiting your time to present your situation. Okay, thank you for that. All right. We now have some presentations. The first one is a proclamation to proclaim Disability Employment Awareness Month. Mr. President? Let's see if that's something I have to do. I don't see you.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. It's the boys in the back.
So I'd like now to invite the people from the Arc of Ascension up and we'll do the proclamation, and we'll get some words of encouragement from y'all after and comment. So, the Arc of Ascension is a nonprofit organization committed to providing services and support that enable people of all ages with developmental and intellectual disabilities and special needs to attain their full potential. The Arc strives to promote and maintain a high level of professionalism in all areas to maximize all resources, human, financial, and in the interest of helping all persons they serve, leading full and rewarding lives. The Arc includes over 140,000 members affiliated through more than 850 chapters across the nation. It is important that every individual and family affected by intellectual and developmental disabilities have access to information, advocacy, and the skills needed to participate as active members of their community and to live an ordinary, decent American life. People with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families are valued, respected, and included in all communities. They are empowered through the nonprofit advocacy and the state and federal programs. Now, therefore, I, Clint Quentmall, President of the Parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana, by the virtue of the authority invested in me, do hereby proclaim October 2021 as National Disability Employment Awareness Month, and encourage all citizens to support our efforts that enable people with intellectual and development disabilities to live productive lives and achieve their full potential. So, just known the Arc for quite a bit and worked with Sharon on a lot of activities, and just a phenomenal facility and what they do there. So I'll turn it over to them, and we'll get some comments from them.
I'm very glad to be here. My name is Raven Beach. I'm the newly appointed Executive Director of the Arc of East Ascension, and I'm glad to be here with my coworkers as well as our board members, our board president. And it is so important that we, the citizens of the Ascension Parish, continue to support people with disabilities as well as their ventures. I'm so ecstatic that the parish president took this time to acknowledge Disability Employment Awareness Month so that we can always look out for the people who are the most needed in our parish. So I do thank you for all the support you have provided to the Arc of East Ascension throughout the years, and the continued support that you continue to provide for our agency. Okay.
I think we'll take a quick photo. Would that be okay? Well, maybe we can get where the council can bunch up, and we can get one with them picture.
And there's a lip down there they can stand on if they need to be, if somebody's really short.
Let's get on the outside.
Step up one. You can step up one if you need to. There you go. We did that on purpose.
Yep.
Thank you. Item 5B, thank you very much, ladies. Item 5B has been struck, and so we will take the resolution by Mr. Ken Dawson as item 5C. Ken, can you make it? We're honored to have you back with us, Ken. Great to see you tonight. I'll bet it is.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Council and Administration. Good to see everybody again. This was something that came up at the last meeting. I think that was a presentation that I think that Coach had someone to come up and he talked about this water resource grant. And basically it's a resolution that allows administration to go for this $5 million grant that's going to be focused on the water plant over on the West Bank, which those dollars are for. Okay, and this comes from the rescue plan of 2021. So we're just asking you to do that so we can put it part of the package as we submit.
I have a motion by Mr. Thomas and a second by Mr. Melanson to approve this resolution to grant the parish president the authority to make this request and include it in the package. Thank you so much. Are there any questions? Mr. Coach.
I want to truly thank Mr. President and himself for moving forward and the future looking brighter for West Ascension with the water. The problem that we've had seems as though we're working toward solving all of those situations. And again, I want to thank you pretty much and the whole team for doing such a great job.
Thank you, sir.
Looking forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. Mr. President.
Yeah, so I would just like to thank all of y'all on the Utilities Committee for all the hard work that y'all have been doing to ensure that we get to these points, and the continued support from the entire council on these, getting our water company hopefully soon to profitability and the best type of efficient and clean water we can possibly give citizens. So we're always looking forward to moving forward and improving things. So we thank the committee as well as the full council for their support. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any objections or any further comments? Mr. Robert.
Grant that we began to use whenever we did the water meters? Or is this
No, it's a separate grant. The grant for the water meter is under the 219 program with the Corps of Engineers. So that $3.5 million for that is going to replacing all the water meters in the PUA system. So instead of having manual meters, it'd be digital. It'd be digital meters.
Well, great. Keep up the good work.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ken, great to see you. We will take the next resolution now as item 5C. D, excuse me. We had struck B, and I'll ask Mr. Dupatti to read the resolution.
Resolution of censure. Whereas the Ascension Parish Council requires its members to conduct themselves in a professional and courteous manner in dealing with the public. Whereas Ascension Parish Council members may be censured for making malicious statements, intentional infliction of emotional distress, verbal abuse, and using profane and foul language to the public. Whereas Ascension Parish Council has been granted the authority by the Louisiana Legislature to make regulations for its own governance and the governance of its members. Whereas council members, it is important that every council member treat the public with respect. Whereas Councilman Corey Ogeron has violated the code of conduct that Ascension Parish Council expects of its members. Whereas the above action and others show a pattern of disrespectful behavior by Councilman Corey Ogeron. Therefore, be it resolved, the Ascension Parish Council publicly censures Corey Ogeron for said action in treating members of the public in an unprofessional and discourteous manner.
Thank you. Have a motion by Mr. Lawler, second by Mr. Cagnolotti. Are there any questions? Any? Please, Mr. Melanson.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. Everybody is familiar with what happened with the situation here Monday night, and everyone up here is very, very apologetic for what happened that night. We sit up here, we represent you. We should set the bar, not lower it. We expect ourselves, to act very professional, especially behind this bench. So I just wanted to apologize, and we hope nothing like this ever happens again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Melanson. I think those were appropriate comments, and I echo them. Are there any other comments? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item number 6 is the parish president's report, and we have an extra special guest here with us tonight who's going to be speaking to us a moment as a part of the parish president's report. I'd like to welcome my constituent, Ms. Emma Benoit.
Yeah, let me do your intro, and then we're going to get you. I have it built in. This whole thing
We're scripted, Emma. We got it right.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, council members. We're excited to have here Emma Benoit and the director of her film, My Ascension. Emma Benoit is a powerful and engaging motivational speaker who miraculously story and message of hope inspires audience of all ages. Emma survived a suicide attempt at the age of 16 and was courageous enough to tell her story in the hope that she can use her experience to help others. As you're aware, parish government has partnered with the Sheriff's Department, Library Board, and the School Board to host the Ascension Parish premiere of her film, My Ascension. Emma is a graduate of Dutchtown High School and a resident of Ascension Parish, and is brave enough to put herself out there on an issue that is not easily to talk about. Because of that, I have told my staff that October 27th premiere needs to be a special night for Emma and a turning point in our efforts to begin the conversation about the hard stuff, teen suicide. The bad news is that the film sold out in 2 days. The good news is that the parish has a long-term contract with Emma. We're working on additional dates and events, and I hope to announce them in the near future. So before we have Emma and Greg come up, I just want to say, we kind of have a rising star in our audience, and it's because of her courage and conviction of getting a story out that needs to be told. And we're so excited. We have a philosophy here, the administration and council, that we can do hard things, and that's exactly what you're doing. And we're so proud to have you tonight, and so proud to have you come here and present. So before we get you to say a couple words, we'll go ahead and play the trailer of the documentary.
From the outside looking in, I had an ideally perfect life. I was happy, outgoing, and always smiling. But what no one knew was anxiety and depression had taken over my life. And I thought that if I opened up, people wouldn't look at me the same. I felt that there was no other way out.
Ascension Parish police detective called me and said that, Mr. Benoit, your daughter has shot herself. And I said, what?
Okay, is she breathing? Yes, I can see breathing. Stay with me, baby girl, please.
The bullet went through my neck and exited through the base of my skull. It severed my carotid artery. And then they found a blood clot pressing down on my spinal cord from C5 to T2. For the longest time, I put pressure on myself for not knowing my purpose or my reason for being here. And it put me in a state of depression, and, suicide is the reason I'm in the wheelchair.
There is no age that is more likely to think about suicide and attempt suicide than high school kids.
Every day in the U.S., 20 young people die by suicide. That's equivalent to losing the entire student bodies of 9 high schools in 1 year. And you can't help but think, why? Why was I saved, but he wasn't?
But your story will say to someone out there thinking about death, maybe I need to pause. And in those minutes, their whole world can change.
Recently, I've been thinking about taking my own life. I feel like I'm not worthy. Like I was brought here for no reason. I'm something that should just be wiped out.
So I can definitely relate to you on that. It's feeling like you don't have a place and feeling like you don't know what you want to do and who you are and where you fit in and stuff. Yeah. So there's no reason to be ashamed or embarrassed about the way you're feeling.
We're afraid to talk about suicide. We think if we talk about it, it's going to give someone the idea. When the reality is they're already texting their friends, I can't take it anymore. I'm at wit's end. And those friends don't know what to do.
Every single day I wake up and I'm like, how did I get here? But then I have to look back and remember how far I've come. To really be thankful. Maybe this is my calling, Maybe my pain and suffering can help someone else. It wasn't an easy journey coming to faith, but I'm working on it. Hi everyone. You've probably been seeing a whole bunch of posts on social media promoting the My Ascension film, and we're so excited to say that it's finally finished. But after seeing the film, I was grateful all over again. I was extremely astounded all over again. I was extremely blessed all over again, but the biggest thing was I was just so proud to see it all come to fruition. My goal for the film is to spark conversations, to get people talking about the hard stuff. I hope that people feel like they're not alone after seeing the film, and that it is okay to not be okay. The title My Ascension means overcoming. It really is a symbolism of my redemption story, and because I was raised in Ascension Parish. We would love for you to check out our film, My Ascension.
Wow.
All right, thank you all, and I want to thank you, Parish President and John and the whole council. But you guys have really been a big support of Emma and this mission. So, you know, Emma and I partnered up to make this film about 3 years ago. I work in youth mental health and had done a previous film on suicide prevention. But Emma and I's goal early along, we wanted to make a great film, but more importantly, a film that really sparks conversations and that can help local communities around the country enhance not just suicide prevention efforts, but just really in supporting young people and spreading hope. Because we know here in Ascension Parish and all over the country, there's a lot of young people that are hurting. Some may not think of suicide or ever get to that point, but they're hopeless. And, you know, we know the kind of things that leads to, whether it's, you know, using drugs or other self-destructive behavior. So we really are grateful to be able to share this film with you guys in Ascension Parish for this big premiere. Emma's been doing some traveling around the country, and we're starting to share this film, but this is really a Louisiana-made film, Ascension Parish-made film, but for a national audience. And so we're just grateful to be able to really kind of launch it here and take it off. And, you know, we're dealing with the Joe Burrow of suicide prevention here, but and she's taking it national, but she's not leaving us here in Louisiana, at least not for a while, right? But truly, she's already having a tremendous impact, and with the support of this community, there's no limit to the amount of people she can help, the amount of lives she can touch, and Ascension Parish can really be, you know, seen as a national leader in mental health. So, without further ado, Miss Emma Benoit.
I don't know how to take all the love. I'm just not used to that. But no, thank you seriously for supporting me in my journey. It's been a crazy journey to say the least, but this is exactly what I imagined I would come to after sharing my story and creating a documentary film. This is exactly what I hoped would happen, is that I could bring it home to my parish and my community and my people and get those conversations going and maybe start implementing some changes. So I'm just so blessed and honored that you all are helping me and supporting me in this journey. And this is exactly what I wanted to happen. This is the exact dream and goal that I wished would come to fruition, and look where we are. So thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna fix it.
You need to get more in the center.
Y'all making it so impersonal. Get up here.
I won't bite.
Come on, John.
Yeah, you guys come around then.
Squat down.
Yeah. Joe. Please move it behind me.
I'm going to do that too.
Right.
So
we'll continue. I have some additional stuff here, and you know, it's hard to follow a superstar, but we.
Just say a quick word to Emma before she leaves.
Sure. Go ahead, Mr. Mawson, please.
I just want to personally thank you, Emma. My wife would be upset with me if I didn't say anything, but last summer we lost my brother-in-law to suicide. So we're very excited, and this is just an amazing thing that you're doing, putting yourself out there. Being so. Just thank you, and we can't wait to see it. Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. President.
So, just like we had our superstar Emma in the house, we have our IT superstar who has to follow that, Brandon O'Day. So we get Brandon to come up and present the progress we made on Munis, an exciting topic.
Brandon, you are not so cute.
Oh,
I'm
Miss
so
Terry.
sorry.
Miss Terry.
And you're not going to make me cry.
Ooh,
So-
no. I promise the software update will not make you cry.
Well, maybe. Who knows? I'm not much on IT, so I might cry.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Brandon.
Absolutely.
Please.
So good evening, Council. Tonight, administration has asked that I come up and give you guys an update as to where we are with the multiple software implementations that are going on. So I'll jump right into the slides. So just a quick overview about where we were and how we got to where we are. Phase 1 of the Munis software implementation was completed October of 2018. Phase 2, which was HR payroll, was completed October of 2019. We just completed what we called Phase 2.5 in June of this year. That was an upgrade to version 2019 of Munis, as well as the debut of Open Finance, and then some additional Phase 1 enhancements, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. And then Phase 3, which is what's ongoing right now, and that's the implementation of ExecuTime, Tyler EAM, Tyler Parks and Rec, Tyler 311, and MyCivic. And again, I'm going to speak some more on that here in just a minute. And our projected go live for these pieces is first quarter of 2022. So real quick, I would like to just kind of briefly recognize some of my staff are here. They are very important to this software implementation. Without them, we would not be able to do this. So first off, our systems admin, John LeBlanc, he oversees our application specialist group, the IT infrastructure, our security, as well as the help desk staff. Mr. Brian Martinez, who's sitting over here behind the parish president. Brian has taken a big role in this administration's need for making data-driven decisions. So he is heavily involved in data analysis. He's been involved in the app development of the mobile app that we're going to get to here in a minute. He's also our database administrator, our GIS administrator, and he helps our departments with workflow, their internal workflow procedures. And then over here, we also have Colt Babbin. Colt was our first application specialist that we hired whenever we first went live with Munis. He's responsible for the financials, the HR, the content management, the employee self-service, and ExecuTime. And then our newest application specialist, Mr. Jarius Carey, who's sitting over here, he was recently promoted. Once we continued to invest in the Tyler software solutions, we needed an additional application specialist to support these new systems that we're bringing online. So he's going to be responsible for supporting EAM, Parks Rec, MyCivic, and 311. So the implementation teams, it's not just about IT installing software. It is very important that we get our departments involved in this and that they buy into what we're doing and that they tell us about their processes, about the activities that they do so that we can configure the systems to work properly. So these are the individuals that have taken lead in their individual departments for the different pieces of software, so I wanted to recognize them. Okay, so whenever this administration took office, the first questions that I started getting mainly from Mr. John Diaz, what software do we own? Are we using it correctly? Let me see the data from it. So one of the first things that we did once they took office is we asked Tyler to provide us with an executive summary for our administration, which basically tells them what software we've purchased, how we're currently using the software, which pieces are we using properly and not properly, and then what are your recommendations for us moving forward. So they provided this assessment for the financial side, and we're going to be asking them to provide the HCM assessment here in the future, maybe second or third quarter next year. So part of this assessment is them making recommendations on how we can better use the software. And one of the things that they recommended was that we change the way that we currently do our budgeting process internally. So previously, the way it worked was our directors would meet with the finance office, and the finance office would basically create the budgets for us based on our feedback. Well, this administration has asked that the department directors take more ownership in their budgets, and this particular module, which was not being used, allows us to do that. So this module allows directors to take ownership of the budgets. It decentralizes the creation of that budget that was all in finance's lap originally, and it allows for an internal review and approval process that we didn't have before. So this is just a screenshot of that central budget program. I took a screenshot of this just a couple of months ago whenever I was preparing my IT budget. It just kind of gives you, it shows you the previous year's budget as well as the current year that we're in now, and then the future years to come. It allows me to go and put those numbers in there and then add the detail that goes along with the numbers. I'm going to transition to some HCM improvements that we've made in the system. So as you know, this software allows us to now have electronic personnel files for all of our employees. And a big part of that is to take the paper personnel files that we have currently and scan those in and get them attached to the electronic employee master records. So HR is currently in the process now of going in and back scanning all those files. The benefit enrollment is now online. So when we opened up benefit enrollment last year, that was the first year that we did it 100% online. So our employees were able to use the app and go in and make their selections as far as what health insurance they want and that type of thing. And it rolled up into a nice dashboard for our benefits administrator to be able to look through, approve, reach back out to the employees if you have any questions. So we'll be doing our second enrollment in that system here shortly for the 2022 enrollment period. And then finally, with talent management, within ESS, we're now able to post our jobs online, and an applicant is able to apply for that job directly online. And that starts a whole workflow process within HR that once an applicant is selected for that job, all that information that they originally filled out when they created that account moves over and creates their HR master record. So they're having to fill out less paperwork, which is always good. And that also includes online evaluations and certifications. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about those two here in just a second. So employee self-service, this went online whenever we finished the HR module, but we have been slowly adding to it. Once we saw the value of it and we saw the additional modules that we could kind of build in-house, that was something that Colt took on. And within employee self-service, we now have the ability to view and apply for jobs both internally and externally. There's now a manager self-service feature, which I'll show you in a second. We can now begin life event changes in there. So if you get married, if there's a name change, if there's an address change, all that can be done within the system. And it's started by the employee rather than having to call HR and have them start it for you. The online performance evaluations and employee certifications. So this is just a screenshot of what it looks like once you make your selections for benefits. This is just a snapshot of somebody that currently has an employee-only benefit plan. They have a dental, they have vision, they have life, and it rolls up and shows you what your cost is per pay period. And again, before we had all this online, you had to reach out to HR with a phone call saying, hey, can you tell me what this is? Can you tell me what that is? So this is a snapshot of my certification records on file. So whenever an employee goes and gets a certificate or the ethics certification that we have to do every year, that's now tracked online here. And we have the ability to set up expiration dates for these certifications if they have one, so that HR can get notified saying, hey, Brandon needs to take his Board of Ethics certification, which I do, as you can see. So this is a screenshot of how you start a life event as an employee. So again, if you get married, divorced, have a baby, or if you need to report loss of coverage, you do it here inside the app. Online evaluations. This was also a high priority for the administration. The ability to do performance evaluations electronically so that it's properly tracked and fair for everybody. You can see on the left the evaluation competencies. The HR office worked with Colt for a long amount of time to determine what these evaluation competencies are and then what the factors are that go along with them. And that's what calculates that final score that you end up getting. And then the screenshot on the right just simply shows what that interface looks like to a manager that has employees underneath them. This is a screenshot of our online job applications. So these are openings at the time of whenever I sent the screenshot. An applicant simply creates an account and they're able to fill out the questions that we ask, upload a resume, and even a cover letter if they want to. And then our job descriptions are also all online on this same portal. So here's something that went online recently, manager self-service. Again, Colt worked hard to get this up and running for our managers and directors. This gives me as a manager a screenshot into who is applying for the job that I have open in real time. So I'm able to see the list of employees that are applying, when they applied. I'm able to look at their resume, their cover letter, their full application without contacting HR like we used to. I'm also able to begin to score them based on their resume and check whether or not they either meet or don't meet the requirements of the job. Personal action requests, which we're able to do in the portal now. So this is if me as a manager would like to begin the process to promote, do a merit increase, a transfer, a demotion, or a status change for any of the employees. Obviously, there's a workflow associated with this that, you have to get approvals by all the powers that be for something like this to go through. And we just went live with this week. And finally, on the self-service side of the house, vendor self-service. This is something we're still working on. We're hoping to go live in November. But this is going to allow our vendors that do business with the parish to go and create an account. They have to upload, I think it's a W-9, and they have to agree to our terms and conditions. But it allows them to say, hey, I want to be a vendor for the parish. And then that information goes to our purchasing department to review, and they either allow or don't allow the vendor into the system. Once you are in the system, the vendor is then able to log in here and access their purchase orders, their contracts, their invoices, and their checks. All right, phase 3. So this is the ongoing software modules that we're currently installing. This is the big one. So the biggest of all these that we did was financials by far, but EAM is right there with it as far as the size and scope of this thing. Whenever Tyler originally told us a year, we really didn't believe that it was going to take that long, but the amount of time that has to go into this to get the assets set up properly in the system, the rates that go along with the employee and the vehicle usage, the activities, all the codes, the inventory that we have out there. Brian Martinez has been working his butt off trying to get all this set up so that we can stay on task and on time to get this done. The groups and permissions are being set up right now. Workflow routing is being set up. There's a big GIS integration with the work order software so that you can visually see where that asset is in the field that you want to apply work to. And then system testing that we'll hopefully get into maybe at the end of the month. So 2 important dates there. November 18th, it's tentative at this point, but Brian and I would like to come back because a number of you have asked about wanting to see this stuff, how much we've done up to this point and what's it going to look like for our employees to use. So Brian and I are trying to get the system to a place where we can do a live demo for you on the 18th, and that's going to be our system with our data in it. It won't be a sales demo like we saw a number of times before. So we're going to try to do that for you on the 18th. And then our projected go live for this is the first quarter of 2022. So next up, Tyler Parks and Rec. Director Michael King of Recreation, I think, gave a little bit of an update at his Recreation Committee about this, but this is something his department is very excited for. I know our Recreation Committee is very excited for this. This is going to be an online portal for our residents to register for classes and programs. They're going to be able to see the facilities that are available to rent. There's a calendar that shows when that particular building is available or not available, and they'll be able to go and register that online and pay for that online without having to call the recreation office. There's also a spot for coaches and players to sign up to participate in a particular league, and then there's a way that the coaches can then assign players to teams. Again, online payment for this. And I should also mention for residents that don't feel safe or don't feel comfortable doing all this online, they'll still be able to go to the recreation office and do this in person. There's a whole back office piece of this software that will allow Michael and his staff to register people or allow them to reserve a class or a program. And the projected go live for this is January 2022. We are on schedule for that go live right now. This is just a kind of a snapshot of what our training sessions look like. That's Miss Raina. She's our implementation consultant for Tyler Parks and Rec. And obviously, we started this during COVID, so we've had to use virtual meetings to do this. At first, it was stressful for everybody, but we quickly adapted to it. But you can see right here, she's helping us set up the schedule for a particular location that's going to be available for rent. And the final piece of software that I wanted to talk about that we actually are done implementing is electronic public records request. This was not originally a piece of software that we had planned to do this year, but early in the year, our legal department saw a big uptick in the number of public records requests that we were getting. And John LeBlanc and my staff got with Miss Andy over in the legal department, and they came up with the idea of, let's see if we can go find some software that hopefully is relatively cheap that can allow us to do this. So John contacted 3 vendors. They sat down and reviewed the 3 vendors, and this was the vendor that they picked, which is GovQA. It is online now, and if the public wishes to go and request or process a public records request, this is the portal that they use. It allows them to submit the request, pay for it if there are any fees involved, and download the records electronically without having to come to the governmental complex. There's also, which the big part for our staff, the main reason why we needed this was the internal workflow system. So Andy was previously simply using email and a spreadsheet to keep track of all these public records requests, and it was a nightmare to keep up with in email, especially for me. I know it was. So with this system now, I'll get an email notification saying that a request was assigned to me, and I'm able to see the details that the requester asked for, as well as any notes that she may have given me or any directions that she gave me. I go find those records, I upload them to our internal portal. She can then review them, have legal review them, and then makes them available for the constituent to download. It's a nice system. I wanted to just quickly mention this. This is something coming down the line. At the beginning of the year, the federal government made .gov registrations free for government entities, and there are a number of benefits that come with having a .gov domain name. As you know, we're currently ascensionparish.net is our web-based presence, and then apgov.us is our email-based presence. So the plan is to eventually move both of those presence to ascensionparishla.gov. And the reason why we want to do this is with the .gov, you get the security and the management that the federal government provides free of charge to us. So it's going to be easier for us to manage for sure. And then it also provides the citizen that they know that they're dealing with a government entity if it's .gov. At least that's the idea behind this. And unfortunately, it has to be, the way that they're doing this, it has to be Ascension Parish LA. It's kind of long, but LA.gov is the state of Louisiana's domain name. So what the federal government is asking that government entities within that state put their name followed with the state.gov, which is what we're going to do here. So that's going to be coming. Yes, everybody's email address is going to change, but we'll be able to set up some forwarding rules so that the apgov.us emails will forward to the new one. And then eventually we're going to have to turn that off at some point, but that'll be for further down the line. And then finally, the My Civic app. So I showed this to you guys the last time I was up here. The administration asked, whenever they came in, why don't we have an app? Why doesn't Ascension Parish government have an app presence that you can go download in the App Store? Well, it just so happens that this software that we bought from Tyler for the work orders, there's a module that connects right to it. So we started looking at this, and our goal here was to have a one-stop app for everything Ascension Parish. Whether you're looking for a government service, you're looking for the sheriff, you're looking for the school board, we want this to be an all-inclusive place. So it's fully customizable, so we'll be able to link to other agencies, just like I mentioned, and then it integrates directly with the 311 and the work order system. So I had planned, whenever I first put this presentation together, to simply show you a screenshot of it in development. So this is what it looks like today. It's still in development, and we're really only in the beta steps of it right now. But we have a working version of it on Brian's smartphones, and I'm going to get him to demo it for you here now.
Yeah, like Brandon said, we have a lot of going on with a lot of data collection internally, and then we're also going to be working towards getting data out to the public. So I think the application will be very useful. We're trying to, it'll be a central point to be able to, we can send notifications, we can link other agencies, we can do a lot of good things, I think, with the app for the citizens and for the council. We have it categorized, and again, we can configure this however we want. We can change the way it's structured, but this is just how we have it currently that we're testing out. I have it broken down into different categories: services, stay informed, your government, locations, open data, job openings, employee, and then Lamar Dixon. This may not be what the final one looks like, but this is how we have it testing right now. In services, for example, I can go into there and customize icons and different things that will link to either web pages or different embedded web services. Operational services, we can go in there and rent an RV at Lamar Dixon, do a work request. We can go into the permit, the web service that has all the bids, the permits. Those types of services. I know that the TPAR is a big one that we're going to be doing. That's where you can rent the facilities, the parks and the community centers directly from the phone. Stay informed. We have a lot of outreach options available that we keep up with that maybe some public is not aware of. We have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Everbridge with OEP for the emergency alert systems, the media agendas, Ascension 21, Move Ascension. So we're trying to tie all these public outreach things together in one application. See if my service goes a little faster.
Live demos of beta software normally don't go well.
Absolutely. So here you can go directly into Facebook or the Twitter account that the parish has. We can go directly into the Everbridge where you can sign up for that, directly to the agenda module that we have. And again, all these modules we want to tie together, for the external and internal use. We have your government where it'll be easy to see. You can come in and see who your council members are. You can find out information, a little bit of information. You can directly call them, website, go to their web page, or email them directly from the app. Same thing with our administration. And then we have our different departments broken up currently. Again, you can contact them via email, website. I have locations. So any kind of locations, the concept there is to identify all the agencies, departments, parks, voting locations. In this example, I have all the parks for the parish in here. You can click the little map icon, and it'll show you a location where all the parks are. We're just trying to think of useful, all the data that we do have, what are people going to ask for? So we're trying to build, different things that'll be beneficial for the public and for the council. Another big push that we're doing now is having open data. So another thing that we're working on is open finance. We went out with the phase 1, which was all the revenues and the budgets. We're going to be rolling out the checkbook where you can pull all the transactions and then follow that with payroll. We have the GIS web maps that we create and maintain for all different types of purposes. We have, all of our titles and pay grades listed on our website. And then the public records request is a good example here of where we're going to start tying all these services that we're implementing into one spot. So same thing with the job openings that, like Brandon mentioned, in the self-service portal. You can come here and see the jobs that are, currently open and apply for them. It'll take you directly to that application portal. I also put in an employee page where we have the self-service. We have WebEOC that we use in time of emergencies. If for some reason you're not getting mail, I got mail, but I got fleet, GPS. I can also put, I recently realized that our fuel station has an application and a website where we can monitor the fuel. We learned that through this last hurricane, to monitor all the fuel, to be able to order the correct amount. We can also embed web pages, like in this example is Lamar Dixon. They have a really nice website. So that's just the basic overall. I mean, ideally we want to put everything, all the data that we're creating and generating, and then all the modules that we're generating and implementing, they're all be in one spot. And then I'll grow that and we'll communicate. I have some other services and things in here to add to it, which will be, anything from the city's services or the sheriff's office. We can tie all that into one application and basically redirect to wherever they need to go and categorize it, what we feel is useful for the, for the public and for the council.
Well, thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. I know he's been working hard on that app, and the whole team's been working really hard to try to take all the data that we have within parish government and really flip it and put it available so that the public can consume it on any device at any time that they want. So with that, that's the end of the presentation, and if you have any questions.
Great work, Brandon. Thank you all so much. Any questions, gentlemen? Coach Thomas.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment that the backstop on the
oh, you like the picture? Oh, yeah. I figured you'd like that, Coach. You like that one?
The best you can get. And the other thing was, only thing I didn't see in there was the coach's corner.
Coach's corner.
Yeah.
I've heard a little bit about the coach's corner.
I'm looking for it.
We hear you, Coach.
Good job.
Yes, sir.
Good job.
Thank you,
Super
Coach.
job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, gentlemen? Mr. Lambert.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you, Brandon.
Yes, sir.
One question I had was with the vendor. When we had some problems, with our system being hacked, different things being held hostage early on. How many people are going to actually sign off if they send a bill or some type of, it doesn't matter if it's a bill or whatever, or invoice for money. How many people will look at this and sign off before it's paid out?
Yes, sir. So the workflow system that is built into this software, it's well, first of all, it's hell to manage because it's very complicated, and that's unfortunately what Mr. Colt Babbin and Jerry have to deal with every day. But the system, we're able to custom build it so that we can put as many stops in there as we need to as far as approvals. So I know that we have some very sophisticated workflow parts set up on the financial side, whereas maybe with the HR side, it might only require the HR director and administration, and then it's done, But yeah, we're able to customize that, and we're definitely taking, whenever we make a change or we implement something, we're always thinking about the security. That's something that John LeBlanc, who is over our IT security, that's something that he makes us do every day. So I'm confident that you can never be 100% positive, but we're doing our absolute best when it comes to that.
Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Great question, Mr. Lambert. Thank you. Any other question, gentlemen? Brandon, Mr. President, did you have anything you needed to?
Yes, ma'am. Just a couple more minutes. I know this is a lot longer than my normal.
We are good.
Okay. So I would like to conclude my report this evening with a recap of some major milestones for the administration, the council, and Ascension Parish as a whole for the past couple weeks. In cooperation with the sheriff, the school board, library board, and the parish, we began the process of turning the old West Ascension Elementary School from an eyesore into what will become an early childhood development center. We've had two major announcements with our industrial partners in Ascension Parish. First, an over $800 million expansion by REG in Geismar, and then the announcement of Air Products, a $4.5 billion investment to build clean energy complex in Ascension Parish. It's over $5 billion investment in our community from our industry partners, and I can't tell you just how many jobs and economic benefits we're going to see parish-wide from that. It's going to be monumental. Parish government also partnered with Our Lady of the Lake for a family health and safety event last weekend. That we had a great turnout at the Frank's Hotel Pavilion on the West Bank. And finally, earlier today in Donaldsonville, I was excited to see the film crew for the upcoming Netflix movie, We Have a Ghost. They were back on site after taking a break during Ida. So we have a lot of great things happening in our parish, and we got many more to come. So that concludes my report, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Mr. President, that was an excellent report. We are so excited about all of the wonderful things that are happening in the parish and will be happening in the parish. So thank you and your team.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. Item number 7, the consent agenda. Madam Secretary, if you'll read, please.
Adoption of August 5th, 2021 regular council meeting minutes. Adoption of August 19th, 2021 regular council meeting minutes. Adoption of September 16th, 2021 regular council meeting minutes. Renewal of contract for professional services with SSA Consultants for an additional year in the amount of $120,000. Ascension Economic Development Corporation renewal of cooperative endeavor agreement for the year 2022 to promote, encourage, and develop industry and commerce in the parish. Total amount of agreement $322,800. Approval of ITEP under the Post-Executive Order 2018 Rules for Project Sandpiper Shell Chemical. Change Order Number 3 BRP Construction LLC Animal Shelter Renovation Costs increased due to the need for a riser to meet flood elevation for the chlorine and sewer treatment tanks, additional $1,587.50 for a total contract amount of $317,584.28. Change Order Number 4 BRP Construction LLC Animal Shelter Renovation days to be added due to part shortages causing production delays for the blowers on the sewer treatment system. Also, lead times for DEQ permit, no additional cost. New substantial completion date is 10/31/21. Change Order Number 5 BRP Construction LLC Animal Shelter Renovation. Cost increase due to purchase and install perforated steel trench covers to replace missing or damaged old grates for an additional cost of $2,841 for a total contract amount of $320,425.28. Amendment Number 3, CSRS Inc., Engineering Review Agency Services to extend the original contract term for an additional 6 months in order to begin new RFQ process. Renewal of participation agreement with St. Bernard Parish Sheriff for housing of juveniles at the detention center located in St. Bernard Parish, amount based on fee schedule. Renewal of master contract for professional services for disaster debris monitoring and related services with Thompson Consulting Services, LLC for an additional year per fee schedule. Renewal of master contract for professional services for emergency debris removal and related services with DRC Emergency Services for an additional year per fee schedule. Approval to accept fiscal year 2021 State Homeland Security Grant in the amount of $49,042.50 and to authorize Parish President Clint Quintmall to sign and execute all documents pertaining to this application and or Chief Financial Officer Patrick Goldsmith for financial documents. Approval to accept fiscal year 2021 Emergency Management performance grant in the amount of $33,258.37, and to authorize Parish President Clint Quintmall to sign and execute all documents pertaining to this application, and/or Chief Financial Officer Patrick Goldsmith for financial documents. Approval to renew the DPW survey and retainer contract at the budgeted amount of $150,000. BFM Corporation LLC, Bryant Hammett and Associates, Quality Engineering and Service Surveying LLC, Earls and Associates LLC, T. Baker Smith LLC. Amendment to renewal geotechnical retainer contract, $300,000, total share among 3 consultants, Gulf South Engineering and Testing, Inc., Ardeman and Associates, and the Beta Group, project ENG 19026. Resolution 2021 through 2022, recommendation of approval of certificate of compliance for off-system bridge replacement program renewal. Approval for change order number 2 to the Move Ascension project MA 1711 Seabro Road safety widening to add the full length of existing driveway pipes, asphalt, concrete patching needed, and maintenance aggregate that will be needed to maintain driveway access at an added cost of $149,275.60. Command Construction Industries, LLC. Approval of substantial completion for emergency repair of 3 bridges, Manchac Acres Road Bridge, Muddy Creek Road Bridge, and Joe Boy Road. Approval of substantial completion for repair of Manchac Acres Bridge over Muddy Creek. Approval of change order number 1 for 2020 road rehabilitation task order number 1 at a cost overrun of $62,852.28. R.J. Daigle & Sons Contracting, Inc. Approval of amendment number 9 to the HNTB master contract for general engineering consultant services. Renew the existing contract through 12/31/2022 and increase the contract amount by $2,405,000.
Thank you, Cinnamon. This lengthy consent agenda is certainly indicative of lots of work that's gone on in committees in the last couple of weeks, so I want to thank all the committee chairmen and the members of those committees for their getting all that work done, and I appreciate the staff for all of the work they did to prepare in order to present to committee. Does anyone on this council wish to remove any item from the consent agenda? I see several. Mr. Robert?
Item W.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Item W does have we'll move that to item 8C, and Mr. Jeff Burst will present at that time. Some of the members of the council asked for him to share his presentation that you all got this week via email. So, Jeff, when we get to 8C, if you'll be, I'll call on you to join us. Thank you so much. All right, item 8A. These are committee recommendations. Approval of a change order number 1 for the Roddy Road intersection improvements at Joe Severio and Merritt Evans Road to add a catch basin and a pipe to enclose the ditch at a cost of $8,144 and an additional 20 days. Richard Price Contracting Company, LLC. This recommendation was from the Transportation Committee. I have a motion by Mr. Lambert, second by Mr. Mason. Are there any questions? Mr. Melanson.
Does our motion need to include the 20 days being the one from Transportation didn't?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So, Cinnamon, do you catch that?
Would you like to amend?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm going to make sure that that's amended to 20 days.
All right, thank you very much. Cinnamon's got that.
And just one quick,
Please.
I want to thank Joey and everyone that was working on this. I think we a week ahead of schedule with the asphalt. So I want to thank Mr. Richard Price with his contracting company working with us so we can get these intersections back open as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Chairwoman Casso.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't believe you took a vote on the consent agenda.
We didn't? We hadn't gotten there yet because we had this come off.
Okay.
We had W come off and then a couple of questions. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve without item W, and we have a change to the other. I guess I had moved on. So let's get that consent agenda approved. Mr. Cagnolati's got that. Mr. Melanson's got that. Are there any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. I was lost again. All right. Now we're at item 8A. We've added the amendment. Are there any other questions about that item? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. And I need to bang this thing twice. Once for the consent agenda, once for this. Got it. Item B, approval of change order number 2 for the Henry Road at Ascension Parish Road 930 roundabout project to provide for excavation and maintenance, total of $14,057 and an additional 80 days. This is a Transportation Committee recommendation.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion by Mr. Melanson with the 80 days and a second by Mr. Mason. Are there any questions?
And the $14,057.
Yes, absolutely. Are there any objections? No, you just have a question, Mr. Law?
Comment.
Please.
I've gotten into the habit, yeah, it is working. I've gotten into the habit on the Transportation Committee when we have change orders, and everybody's concerned about how much change orders are compared to what the original contract was. So I've done the math real quick. This one actually went down because the numbers changed. This is 1% of the total budget, so that's real good. I know I've got to tell, where is he? Joey Turo back there. Thank you, Jeff Burst and Ruth. We've all worked on this, making sure that we keep these change orders where they should be, generally below 5%, and we've done a great job with that. So congratulations, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for pointing that out, and congratulations to those folks who were mentioned. Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. All right, item C will now be what was formerly W, the approval of amendment number 9 to the HNTB master contract for general engineering consultant services, renewing the existing contract through 12/31/22 and increasing the amount by $2,405,000. That's a Transportation Committee recommendation. And Mr. Burst, thank you for being here tonight to present your slides. They were beautiful.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and council members as well. Happy to go through the PowerPoint presentation that was emailed and should be in each of your packets. Unfortunately, it won't be on the screen just because they don't have an electronic copy. I can put my copy up on the
Please, we'd like the public to see what we're doing here.
There we go.
Brandon's here, so he can make that happen.
Yes.
Should be good. Email it to y'all real quick to put on the screen, or do we not have time?
Did y'all get it when I emailed it earlier? Oh, it's that one. Yeah.
Yes.
We have that
one. Oh,
okay.
Excellent.
I didn't.
Do you have the? Do we?
All right.
Have the clicker? Okay.
We're so proud of this new building with all this sophisticated equipment. We can do all kinds of amazing things. Thank you all. And the public for making this possible.
Okay. Well, now as you see it on the screen, I was asked by Councilman Melanson and several others to provide some additional information. One kind of overall arching about the entire program itself, Move Ascension, but also about, who's working on it, how do we deliver these projects, talk about some of the financials about it, and then the status of where we are and where do we project to go. And so I will run through. Am I clicking at the wrong spot? There we go. So I'll run overall arching program summary. We'll talk about, the participating firms and their role in the program. We'll hit on the financials. We'll talk about how we were able to grow the program successfully by leveraging other funds, both federally, state, and local. We'll talk about what's going on from a design and construction standpoint, and then I'll stand ready to answer any questions y'all have. All right, so, what goes into the overarching running and management of a program like this, and typically we put it into 5 distinct areas. As you see here, it's the overall program management. One of the most important parts are the controls, the financials, the schedule, and document control is very important. Managing the design consultants, overseeing their design work. acquisition of right-of-way, relocation of utilities, all that pre-construction effort to go to eventually letting a project to construction. So you see that, and then there's inspection, there's material testing, and the like. But also there's the outreach to the public, keeping them informed, whether it be a website, public meetings, media blasts through, Facebook and Twitter and emails and things like that, newsletters. All right, so where is our program? So just quick summary to step back. How does program start 4 slightly plus years ago? The parish decided to, we were doing a long-range master transportation plan out 30, 40, 50 years, but wanted some construction now, some orange barrels. People could see some improvements now. And so the parish put up some reserve funds in an amount of $10 million. They went and sold bonds in an amount of 25 for an overall Move Ascension program of $35 million. So we got started and got going, but then we realized, well, there's other opportunities out there, and we can grow this program by leveraging federal, state, and local monies, and then we can, what we have now and what we project that we can get in the future. And if you'll take a look at some of this list here, we've already secured almost $17 million from the MPO and block grant greater than 200K funds. This 1.4 unobligated of the same type of money was allocated to another governmental entity, but they were not able and at the ready to take advantage. We were, so we applied and their funds were awarded to us. Another specialty pot of money was this exempt funds. The other members of the MPO didn't feel like they could be ready to meet the deadlines. We raised our hand and said that we could, so we were able to take advantage of another $2.7 million there. You see the 4.9 in road transfer funds with DOTD. I want to just mention that one of the key points in that is, unlike a lot of the other parishes, we were able to negotiate cash payments as opposed to future credits down the line to the tune of almost $5 million. And I'm happy to say they paid in 3 installments for the last 3 fiscal years, and we've collected every penny of that now. We were able to leverage $2 million in DOTD safety funds, $1 million to the Parker Road roundabout, and $1 million to the Church Point roundabout. Over the last several years, the administration as council has approved the transfer from the road construction fund of a total over all that aggregate years of about $12 million. And that funds the design consultants. And we'll hit on the design consultants in a minute. Mr. Fournier, who leads the planning division, has allocated $5.2 million of the traffic impact fees to the program. And those are allocated and dedicated to specific projects. And we're hoping to continue that process in the future. The parish delegation was able to secure a $150,000 grant through Act 45, that's Department of Treasury monies, that is dedicated to the LA 73 to Bluff Road Connector Project, and it is reimbursable monies tied to geotechnical and right-of-way acquisition process. Now, looking out, as we talked about now, the parish is going to a 5-year projected budget now from the parish administration and the finance department at the recommendation of the state legislative auditors is moving in that direction. So projecting out, we can look to hopefully build on how we have an overall budget applied to transportation. So as you know, the 2/3 half cent sales and use tax generates anywhere from $6.5 to $8 million or so every fiscal year. So if we just say an average of $7 million projected out through 26, that gives $35 million. Well, you're not getting all that because as you see a little bit below, there's some debits. And then again, if we annually apply some impact fee monies, that can add to the pot as well. Now, okay, that's all great information, but we also have to pay out as well. So every year, and let's project out to that same 26, we pay $1.8 million in debt service on that bond sale. And so if you project out over that same period of time, that'll be $9 million. Also taken out of that $7 million every year taken in from that sales and use tax, the parish has elected to dedicate $3 million to the overlay program. And so you have to deduct that out of that monies as well. And then we've obligated ourselves in past resolutions to put up $3.4 million thus far in our 20% match to match some of these federal dollars that you see up top. So overall, when you look at an aggregate of what we've secured and what we're projecting out, I mean, you're looking at a sizable pot of almost $93 million to operate over from now through the next several years. What I did not add to this pot, and you'll see at the top right, is we have applied on behalf of the parish for additional federal grant monies for the MPO's fiscal year 23 through 26 year. Those have been scored. The tallies are not final. We've gotten a pre-look. Ms. Ruth Phillips sits on the advisory committee, and we've been briefed a few times. 39 submittals by all of the parishes and all of the governmental entities in the MPO submitted 39 submittals. Our 5 that we submitted have finished in the top 19. 2 of them finished in the top 10, with one of them as the #1 scored project application. So the MPO has indicated they may, and they have not finalized anything yet, so that's why I'm not counting this, may fund the top 20. If that happens, all 5 of ours to the tune of $20.6 million would be funded. We would have to put up the match, but that being said, I don't know what they're going to do, but I fully don't expect them to fund all 5, because that may leave several other parishes out that might have finished at 22 or 23rd on the scoring range. Let's just say they fund the 2 in the top 10 and say your other 3 we're not funding this cycle. Reapply the next cycle. That's $15 million of the 20.6. And so if you added that, and again, I'm not adding it because there are no guarantees, now we're at $108 million for the overall program. Again, you have to add some debits to that because we'd have to put up the match. Okay. So how do we deliver this program of what we have, what we're projecting to have? Well, the parish had selected through a competitive selection process 11 design consulting firms. They entered into a master GEC contract with them and issue individual task orders for design assignments. Each now design consultant, they also have multiple sub-consultants that do some of the specialty items like SUE and survey and geotechnical. So as we move forward, you'll see these in the bold are the 11 contract design consultants, the CDCs, with their entire team of subs there. And as you can see, that is 28 separate firms participating within the pre-construction effort of this program. Okay, what does the program look like right now? Well, here are the list of projects, 37 of them. Now, you see a couple of red strike-throughs. Number 9, we went through preliminary plans and put them on the shelf because we then decided to convert the project to 2 of the more accident-prone intersections, and that is under construction now, and construction should be completed within the next 3 weeks. That's at Joe Severio and Merritt Evans, Joe Severio and Norwood. Yes, sir. 15, Tiggy, we went through preliminary plans, have it designed, we have right-of-way maps, and all the property surveys done. We held a public meeting, and the residents elected and asked the administration and the council and the program not to do the safety widening, but rather to overlay, add signing, striping, and some extra reflective buttons on the road for nighttime. And so that was done. And so we stand ready in the future that we could do a safety widening, but right now their roadway has been improved to their satisfaction. And so that one has been removed temporarily on hold from the program. And then if you'll see 31 struck through, that's the Lemonville Cutoff Road on the West Bank. It was only removed from this program because it's being done by parish in-house forces. So that project is moving. It's just not part of the Move Ascension program. It's being done in-house by the DPW. Okay, program financials. We just looked at, how do we fund this and how do we leverage bonds, local cash reserves, federal dollars, grants, DOTD, state monies, et cetera. And then we talked about how we program that out over the next 5 years. And as you can see here, I've got it broken down by all the different phases. And there's, a combined inspection and material testing for this one, but you'll see, deliver just one project and then be completely done and have traffic running on it. There's seven distinct phases of operation here. Once you get into construction, several of them are done simultaneously, but it is an effort. And you can see it's a sizable amount, but as mentioned last week at the Transportation Committee, there was a slide, and you'll see it here in a minute, actually the next slide, that the currently contracted to date, the design phase is slightly more, and you saw the list of projects in the previous slide, than construction right now. Well, that was to stand up a program from nothing and get to where we are to have shovel-ready projects. Not only is that beneficial to have projects ready to go, because right now in 22 coming up, we will anticipate to have an explosion of construction. But secondarily, benefit is that having these projects on the shelf, what some call shovel-ready, actually is one of the great scoring criteria for grabbing some of those federal grant monies. So it's a twofold benefit to the parish. But as you can see, as we move out from 22 on, construction greatly takes over as far as funding the rest of the 6 phases. And then that's the projection from what's been done through projecting out. And then here's just contracted to date, and that's the chart that's been shown before. And again, as I mentioned, that construction is slightly less than the design phase in this. Not by much, but it is. And again, as we move forward through 22, that will greatly change where in the favor of construction.
Yes, you may. Mr. Melanson would like to interrupt.
Sorry, go ahead. Oops.
I can.
There we go.
I just wanted to point out, so I'm coming up on the end of year 2, and there's a big learning curve, and really hit on the engineering design, what you were just saying. So we get a lot of flack, right, because we spend so much money on engineering and consultant fees and all this other stuff. But in one of your previous slides, you showed having these shovel-ready jobs, these dollars that we've got from other parishes, because it wasn't in the same shape that we are having jobs, quote unquote, shovel-ready. And so whenever we meet with our congressmen or senators, and we talk about interstate exchange and all that stuff, the first thing they ask is, "Are you shovel-ready?" and all that stuff. So I really appreciate. So whenever I emailed you last week and asked, and this is exactly what we want to show everyone. See, right now you spend almost $11 million on your engineering. You spent a little over $9 million on construction. Well, a few screens ago you showed where that's going to be $19 million and $50 million, because you're over halfway done designing everything, and now we're going to hit that construction phase.
That's right.
So I just wanted to point that out, that look, I'm sorry, Mr. Jeff, but everybody hates spending the money on the engineers and the consultants, and they want construction and all that stuff. So I just think it's important. It's something I learned. It was one of the first hardest lessons that Mr. Lawler, taught me whenever I took over was, hey man, it is what it is. Everybody hates it. There's a bunch of red tape, but this is what you have to do to get the dollars from the state and the feds to move on these projects.
Right, and again, just to go back to, it's twofold. One, when you stand up a program from nothing, you are very heavy-handed on pre-construction activity, but now we're at that tipping point, but also to roll into construction. And then, like you see here, it's almost even split, slightly more in favor of the design. And then the previous slide, that as we move forward from fiscal year to fiscal year, you can see how much more heavily weighted the construction is. But also, again, as I mentioned, it's twofold because it is one of the specific scoring criteria for us to go out and grab some of these federal grant monies. Where are you? Did you put up any local dollars? Have you advanced design? Have you acquired right away? Where are you in the process? And if you are, what I like to say, at the ready, you score a lot higher. And a testament to that is we scored all 5 of ours in the top 19 of 39 submittals, including the number 1 and 2 in the top 10. So.
Mr. Robert had a comment.
Yes, sir.
A few slides back, the list of the projects that we have. I just was curious about Project 35, if you don't have any information on it now. Whenever you do, that's also fine, just to contact me.
Yes,
It's
sir.
the LA 30 Buzzaroo Connector Road.
Yes. Actually, in meetings with Ms. Diaz and talking with and having conversations with the state, understanding that they're going out with a advertisement for an IJR and a environmental assessment for a new interchange at 2 locations on I-10, one at Cornerview and one at 74. We've looked at the beginnings of a design to preserve corridor to help us be prepared if that interchange does come. So what we've positioned ourselves to do is, and will be beginning to do, have not yet, preliminary plans far enough along to develop the right-of-way maps to preserve the corridor for a potential connector from 30 to the interstate, but with a node at some point to then connect to 73. So I actually have some conceptual layouts that was done in a feasibility study commissioned by DOTD on that, and I can certainly send that to the administration and to the council as well if you would like.
That'd be great.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lambert.
Yeah, and also, put it back up.
Yes, sir.
This is the first time I've seen with the Roddy Road, Highway 933 and Highway 931. Highway 933, we had money for that roundabout from Keystone. Highway 931, Joseph Ariel side and the Roddy Road side, that's parish owned. Who made the decision to strike these?
Who made the decision to do what? I'm sorry, sir?
To strike, why did you strike it?
Oh, I'm sorry, number 9.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. One, because we looked at some cost benefit of it. It was originally put in the program, but they actually, the other stretches of the Roddy, but the Joseph Vario Road had the 2-foot aggregate shoulders and slightly wider lanes. So for the cost of the design, right-of-way acquisition, moving utilities and construction, outweighed the benefit of a smaller scaled down project at the intersection that had the largest crash history. Now, what we do have is we have preliminary design and base right-of-way maps, so we could take that off the shelf at any time.
Yeah, because at Highway 931, we do have a fatality, which meets, I think they had 5 fatalities. So, I mean, we should move that up. And well, I know some people were notified about right-of-way on this.
Well, regarding number 9, that was a safety widening. Now, at the intersections you mentioned on Roddy and Joseph Vario at 931 and 933,
yeah,
in lieu of that, we've added roundabouts at those intersections, and those are currently under design. And those also have federal dollars attached to them.
I got you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Do you want to proceed, Jeff? Or does anyone
yes,
else? John, Mr. Cagnolotti, I'm sorry, I see somebody else lit up here.
Okay, thank you. Jeff, just expanding on what Councilman Malonson said, this spread between engineering design costs up front and construction, that's going to continue to expand. Construction is going to continue to be a whole lot more than engineering design.
Well, like on your screen now, that's where it stands, let's say, as of today. You can see they're very close, but the design phase is a larger percentage than construction today because we had to build up the program in pre-construction, and we've let several projects. We have several underway, and we have several advertised ready to come online, and then a good number at the beginning of 22. But then when you look at this, as we move from, excuse me, that's today.
Yeah.
As we move through fiscal year to fiscal year, and this is projected on out, as you see, you can see the heavy weight of the construction percentage comparatively to the other phases, including the engineering.
But beyond 2026, that's even going to expand more.
It should. Now,
Yeah.
there will be some variances as projects are added and design begins, but then construction will not stop now, as you see that list, as we work through that list.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Proceed, Jeff.
Yes, ma'am. To date, and then, okay, so our management contract, here's a list of our team to run and oversee the program on your behalf. We are the prime, obviously, and we have 5 sub-consultants, so a team of 6 firms. I'll just go through them and tell you their role. It's Civics is formerly GCR, does right-of-way acquisition for us. We have CSRS is one of our subs also. They do right-of-way acquisition, right-of-way staking. They also do our traffic modeling for some of these proposed new connector roads and improvements. ELOS is our environmental clearance and core permitting subconsultant. QES does surveying and mapping for us. As a matter of fact, we've just assigned them to do some mapping on, which you didn't see on this project list. I wanted to go back, are 3 projects. 2 are DOTD off-system bridge projects that we're handling, but we're not tracking them as Move Ascension projects. But through the CEA with the state, the parish is responsible to acquire the right-of-way and relocate the utilities. Then we pass the baton back to DOTD, who pay for the design, and they will pay for the construction and inspection. Also not listed on here that we're beginning to assign now to begin topographic surveys and preliminary design is the Henderson Bayou Bridge embankment widening as well. That didn't show up on the list because we're not tracking it as a Move Ascension project, but we're also overseeing that, and I can certainly add that to the list on another slide. So QS does the survey and mapping, and then Franklin Associates does our public information and outreach. So as you can see here, we started in the end of 2017, so our 2017-18 is when we got started with program management and assigned task orders and kind of filled up the buckets for the subs to do all of the work that you see on your screen here. And then you can see the amounts. And you know, what was on the agenda for today is the Amendment 9. And all that does is takes our program management through 22. And what that takes, and you see what the breakdown is on that bottom line right there. But for the first time in over 4 years, and why it looks a little bit larger than what it has been historically year after year, and that is this is the first time in over 4 years we're actually filling those buckets back up for the subs to continue that work, the traffic modeling, the right-of-way acquisition, the environmental core permitting, public outreach, et cetera. And then you can kind of see the breakdown between us and our entire team at the top right there. Before I move on, was there questions on that, or you may finish my presentation and we'll go back?
Jack. I'll see if somebody lights up here.
Yes, ma'am. We touched on this early on in the program overview slide, but I was asked to put some specific information into the presentation about this, so I gave it its own slide. We discussed the leveraging of funds in addition to the original bond sale, both at the local, state, and the federal level. And then this is just what you've seen before in that earlier slide, just enumerated, including the bottom one, which are potential funds. And again, you know, scoring the number 1 and having 2 in the top 10, 5 in the top 19 or 30, I highly anticipate us funding, getting a substantial amount of federal funding on this recent call for projects. I cannot say we're going to get the entire 20.6 million, but if they only give us, again, our 2 out of the 5 that are in the top 10, that's $15 million in federal funds, and we should know, I'm thinking by the end of this calendar year, and we're hopeful to know what's been finally selected. So, if you look at the chart off to the right, you'll see what's been awarded now, what we have now. Then the second column, I'll mention that 20.6, and again, don't know that we can count on all of that. I feel safe to say it will be double digits, though, in the millions. And then you just extrapolate over there that could be potentially up to $54 million that we've added and leveraging other funds. That being said, that also gives no credit for anything else we get from the state over these next several fiscal years in safety funds, in the Safe Roads and Public Places, in the coalition funds, in the House Bill 2, things like that we haven't taken advantage of. We didn't even mention on one of the earliest slides, Mr. Dawson was up here for the resolution earlier this morning for the $5 million on the drainage side of on the West Bank in Coach's area, and I think that is a tremendous application. But the parish was awarded almost $24.5 million from that very Rescue Act, and so there are other monies out there. Now, it's completely up to parish administration and the council where that's applied. I'm just saying there's other opportunities that possibly transportation can get a portion of that. Also, what came down from the original stimulus omnibus bill, the first COVID relief, DOTD is getting $155 million from that. Now, they have not yet disclosed how they plan on spending that across the state, but in conversations with the DOTD secretary, he had indicated that he would like to spread it around to where, I'm not saying everybody gets a little something, but Ascension could be positioned to get a portion of that $155 million. But what we can go after is the MPOs got $20 million from that bill, and of that $20 million, the Baton Rouge MPO, which Ascension is a part of, gets $5.8 million of that. So we will, with permission from the administration as council, we will aggressively go after a portion of that as well. We also didn't mention the 22 Rescue Act, nor the infamous $1.1 trillion Infrastructure Jobs Act, if it's enacted. And then we'll have to see. We had a meeting with Congressman Graves last week, and so he's advocating on our behalf, at the state and down here at the parish level. So we will have to see what comes out of that bill, and then how they set up the rules, and with permission from the administration certainly and the council, we plan to aggressively go after some of those funds as well.
Fantastic. I already have a motion to approve, Jeff. Do you,
Yes,
do I
ma'am.
have a second for that? I have a second over on the other side. So Mr. Robert has made the motion. Mr. Wagasback has made the second. I think, you want to proceed, or you think you've sold this thing?
Well, I mean, I'm happy to finish, or
Please.
however you would like for me to do it.
I think that everybody would like to continue to see your
Okay, yes,
work.
ma'am. And then moving on to just what are we doing? What we have done, what are we doing right now, what are we projecting to do? And as Councilman Melanson mentioned, everybody is excited about construction, not as much the behind-the-scenes portion of it. And so that's why I wanted to highlight this slide, is that we have completed 11 projects. Not all are roadway construction projects, but some are very important, and those are the signal timing and synchronization of the traffic signals at various intersections along Airline Highway and on the West Bank along LA1. But then you see the list of other projects that have been completed. The 3 that are currently underway, actually number 3 has yet to get started, but will get started here in the coming weeks. And then you see kind of what's up next. Several of these clearing grubbing projects, the number 1 will be taking bids November 18th. And then some of these other clearing grubbings will be able to, they'll fall under the threshold. We'll be able to get quotes and assign that to a contractor. But then you'll see several of these roundabout projects up next before, let's say, some corridor, longer corridors like Henry, 930, Roddy. And that's by design, because we can get in there, clear those quadrants out, get the utility companies in there, because it might take, for example, to move 9 utilities and deal with 3 pipelines on 930, that could be the better part of 9+ months. Whereas in here, we can get these utilities in there once we clear the quadrants and then get them moved to the next one before we send them on a 2-mile corridor. That way we see asphalt being poured at multiple locations around the parish while they're efforting then to take these long corridors like a 930 or a Roddy or a Henry. But then you do see the 930 at the bottom, and I just cut it off there because right after that one, we'll do either Henry or Roddy, and there's 2 segments of Roddy. One's from US 61 to 935, one's from 935 to 621, and also 3 bridges between those 2 projects will be replaced with new structures. Projected for 2022, I hit on a lot of this as well, and I'll just, for the design, I'll just turn your attention to the top one, the US 61 Airline Highway Super Street Intersection Improvement Project. That's the one I mentioned. That is the #1 scored project to receive $12 million in federal dollars. And then you see that these are the projects slated for up next, and that would be over $12.5 million of construction value. And I just hit on them on the previous slide. But one of the unsung heroes is right-of-way acquisition. It is a long, arduous process, and we are hoping to acquire over 285 or so parcels of property in the next year. And we have secured federal dollars for a good portion of that. Just 2 projects alone, Germany Road from Airline to 44, and Duplessis from Airline, well, where the Walmart is, all the way to Highway 73. Germany has 130 parcels for acquisition, and Duplessis has 92. So you can see the effort just on those 2 projects alone. And, well, that brings me to the end. That's just the end of the presentation. And again, as mentioned, I'm here to field any questions you may have.
Mr. Mason.
Thank you, Jeff, for the presentation. If you guys come to transportation, you get this stuff every month. So I recommend y'all come by and say hey. It gives these updates every month, and it's pretty exciting. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Mr.
Yes,
Malonzo.
sir. Thank you.
First, can we put this on the website?
Absolutely.
And my second question is, on our property value here is just exploding, right? Our right-of-way acquisition, would you say that we're spending a lot more money on that than, say maybe like a state or national average?
I don't have the national average figures
Right.
to compare. And, again, it depends on the type of property, the area location, what exactly we're doing to it. In other words, are we taking enough to where it makes it an economical remainder, to where there are, quote, damages to the property or a business. Property acquisition is very dependent on a number of factors. But I have seen to where, in industry and in the real estate market, I find us spending very comparatively as what DOTD does. And acquisition fees on the soft costs, even less, because restricted appraisals are allowed at the parish level, but not at the state level. And that significantly reduces our appraisal fees. Whereas the DOTD, for what they call a Form A, for a somewhat complicated acquisition, the appraisal fee is $2,400, for example. A less complicated one would be $1,200. Well, we still have to do some of those, particularly when it's federal dollars and state right-of-ways involved. But at the parish level, we're able to do, let's say, restricted appraisals. Well, those fees are $500. So they're a fraction of what the state might pay on the soft costs. Land acquisition, I'm seeing them be very comparable because state and federal law you have to have licensed appraisal and pay and offer fair market value.
Thank you. I appreciate you obliging me for the last 2 weeks and putting this together.
No, not at all. I'm happy to provide any information that you would request. I do want to touch on your first point, and I had a recent meeting with the administration, and, with their guidance and direction, we are going to be including our monthly briefings and presentations on the website. We have been actively this week updating the website to add new features and more up-to-date information. Just in the last 2 days under the news page, because a lot of the general public might not understand the processes from some of the behind-the-scenes efforts like the right-of-way acquisition, the environmental process, what it takes to get a Corps of Engineers permit. So we've added new features to show those processes and explain it a little bit better. And so I think I'm going to present to the administration and can certainly add it to next month's briefing exactly what's changed, maybe provide screenshots and maybe a quick run through if you like, but that is being enhanced, and as I mentioned, I just had a recent meeting, and with their guidance and direction, we're going to greatly beef up what you see on the website. That gives the residents a lot more direct access to information as well. But yes, I will be putting the briefings each month on the website, and then circulate them as the next month comes. We'll take that one down and put up the new one, or we can archive them.
Thank you, Mr. Jeff.
Thank you. Mr. Wagsback.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. I mean, so this is a great presentation just to show everybody what are we getting for this money, because people see those numbers and they really question it. And we can talk about it for the next transportation. I'd like to see and I think I'd like to see this as we talk about transparency in the finance department. What do we put out, and then for these contracts and engineering, what do we get in return as a percentage? As we spend money on engineering firms and just as we do in drainage, just to have percentages so people see that the money we put up and what we get back for it.
Okay, we can provide that.
So, but I'll get with you on it, because
yes, sir.
You may not, I ask for things sometimes. I want you to make sure you know what I'm asking for. But thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Thomas.
Very accurate, very articulate, and very smooth. Very informational. I mean, it was very clear, understandable what you were saying, and what you were saying was real informational. Knowing some things and very, very clear in what you were saying. So, good job.
Thank you, Coach.
Good job.
I do want to mention that we talked about we were able to acquire some federal dollars that other entities were not at the ready to take advantage of. Well, we're doing 9 overlays all over the parish, 2, Coach, on the West Bank. 1 actually in the city of Downsonville. We have a cooperative endeavor with the mayor for them to put up their portion of the match. And so, yes, sir. So.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second to approve this contract. Are there any further questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Excellent, Jeff. Thank you so much. Item 9, general business. These are the condemnation proceedings. Item A, B, C. We will allow these folks as much time as they need to share their information. Item A is condemnation proceedings for property located at 7104 Tom Mills Road. Welcome, sir.
Hey, how are you? So this case we have here on Tom Miles Road started back in 2015. They had a unfortunate structure fire, actually resulted in a fatality and a litigation that lasted up until September of 2020. At this point, the house has been sitting there since the fire. The roof is basically all caved in at this point. They have some pictures attached, kind of a timeline of what happened on the site. The owner is aware that we did put it up for condemnation, and we're just asking you to consider this for condemnation so we can get it removed before it causes any harm or foul to anyone.
Have a motion by Mr. Robert, a second by Mr. Cagnolotti to approve this condemnation proceeding. Is anyone here to represent the family? Yes, sir, please. And just identify yourself and tell us what's going on.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Council.
Thank you, sir.
Parish government is on. My name is David McLaughlin. I'm actually the owner of the property on 7104 Tom Miles Street. In 2015, there was an unfortunate fire that happened there where the property was caught on fire. Some criminal charges were brought against me. Took me 5 years to be able to have all of those charges dismissed against me, the entire indictment and dismissed against me. As of now, and I can't speak a lot on it, we do have, this property is still in litigation because we have a civil lawsuit against the State Fire Marshal's office for tortious interference of a contract and defamation of character against me. The House has a boatload of evidence that was overlooked in me being arrested and charged with all of these hideous crimes that I was innocent of. I am financially able to demolish the house and get rid of it myself. I do have the finance to be able to do that, but upon the request of my attorney that just in case we may need that in the civil litigation, that's the reason why the house is still there. I didn't want to put that in public and didn't want to put that over text messages, so I wanted to bring that to the council so you guys would know why the house is still there. And it's still there because we're still dealing with civil litigation. It took 5 years for me to go through something, over $100,000 to prove my innocence. And that house, if had law enforcement done what they were supposed to do in the beginning, the house would have been rebuilt and I'll probably still be living there.
Yes, sir. Mr. Robert.
Apologize for all you had to go through with that situation. This is a house in my district down Mr. Miles Road. It backs up to a subdivision with hundreds of residents. I hope that it all gets worked out. I really do, but in my opinion, it's too much of a hazard for all these people. It's not like you can save the house. The house is, it's done, so it's got to be demolished. You never know how long civil court could last. I mean, this could go for years. From what I understand, people go and actually sleep in that house. They have people dealing drugs in that house. And this has been told to me from several of my constituents over there. So while I do understand your situation, sincerely, I feel like we need to move forward and condemn so we can have this removed for the safety and welfare of the citizens.
Thank you, Mr. Robert. Any other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
I have another comment.
Please.
I understand that we have comments that people are selling drugs or whatever in that house, but we have to understand that this house is on private property. And any one of you people here, any one of you know the Ascension Parish in that area right there, Tom Miles is not gonna let nobody be on that property doing no drugs and people sleeping in that house. That's not gonna happen. And I understand that it's an eyesore, but in a 50-yard radius, that's private property to begin with. In a 50-yard radius around that property, there's no one that can touch that property. If that property decides to cave in, no one could be hurt by that property, any of that on that property, because it's private property and it's 3/4 of an acre and it sits in the middle of it. So to say that we're going to condemn the property because people are sleeping in it and drugs are being sold out of it, who's buying the drugs? That's the first question I want to know. How are we going to sell drugs in the middle of nowhere? That's the first thing I want to know. And I understand that people have their wants about things, but an injustice has happened to me. And that house has a boatload of information and evidence that was overlooked. I paid a price And I'm asking you guys to allow me to go through my court proceedings because nobody considered the fact that I went through 5 years of hell, my children, my family, of hell for something that I didn't do. And I'm just asking that this council consider me and doing what I need to do just in case that evidence is destroyed and I don't receive justice.
I understand, sir. Any other questions? Mr. Lawler?
I thought Travis was going.
No, Travis, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. You are number one. Travis, go ahead.
My main issue with tearing it down would be if he's involved in civil litigation, will it put us on the hook for destroying evidence? And so that's that is my main concern with condemning this property. I understand what Mr. Robert is saying as far as people want to tear it down, they don't like the way it looks. But if it's involved in civil litigation and we put a notice out there we're going to tear it down, any attorney that he has that's halfway doing his job is going to get an injunction filed against us, then we're going to be involved in another unnecessary litigation.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lawler?
He said what I was going to say.
Said what you were going to say, okay?
Oh, but I did have one follow-up question. Is
Go
there any
ahead.
way that you can secure the property to fence it off to stop people from going there?
If that be the case, if that's what I need to do in order to fence it off, but there's a ditch. I mean, if somebody goes on the property, we have to understand, and let me just go back to this. There's nothing left to steal there. They stole everything that I had left in there anyway. So there's nothing left to steal. Everybody didn't have a problem going in there stealing all of my generators and all of my property when I was put in jail. But now all of a sudden, it's a problem. And these same people who are making these complaints were the same people that went in my property. But now it's a problem. There's nothing left to steal. Nobody's going over there. There's nothing left to steal there. But if it's putting a fence there, it's going to be a costly measure. There's a ditch that goes around it. There's a fence that they actually put a gate in the middle of it. They actually put a pool at the edge of my property. I don't see where the problem is. For me, it's all personal.
Yes, sir. Mr. Robert?
The problem with the property is the danger it puts up. It's private property, which is why it's condemned. You have kids that are all over this property, Travis, Aaron, that live all amongst there. So when someone goes and gets hurt or killed, and they can also sue us, we'll be liable for not pursuing this. Also, there's grass that's not been cut around there. There's animals. I mean, it's burned and it's just sat there for years. It's a huge, huge hazard. I mean, and we can't even put a fence around it. You know, it's private property, hence condemning the property. I feel like the liability is there both ways. And like I said, it's not just the Miles that have been complaining about this. It's all the people down Moran Road, Carter Road, all there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Malonzo?
Yeah, my question, so what kind of time frame do you think that you're looking at, like as far as your legal case? Like, I mean, do you have a ballpark? Are we talking a few months?
I mean, I had 2 years to be finished with this, with the criminal charges. It took 5. And that, I can't tell you what's the timeline. I had 2 years legally to be finished with it. It took 5 years. So I can't tell you a timeline on how long it's going to take with these proceedings. I don't know. And I mean, at this point, I just don't know, man, because I've been done an injustice. And the same people who wanted to see me in prison for something I didn't do, now you're trying to push the envelope and destroy every chance that I have to get some justice. And if I have to put a fence around it to be able to get that justice, that's what I'll do.
My second question would be, you know, if this body decides to give you some more time or whatnot, I mean, so the upkeep of the exterior of the home, the the grass and things like that. Is that something that could potentially
Right,
be addressed?
we have been cutting the grass. I have a guy, Chad Clark, that has been cutting the grass. The difference is with that property is when it rains over there, it gets so soft that it's hard to be able to get, any tractors or any sort of equipment on it because you'll get stuck because the property is kind of like, it's really, really soft. It was soft for me. And as we know, over the last year and stuff, we've been having so much rain, but it's not like the property doesn't get cut. I do have a guy that does go over there and cut the grass, and take it up. It's not like it's all out of whack all the time, but when it's so wet, the guy just can't get there to cut the grass. But I do have somebody that takes care of the property.
Mr. Thomas.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that we would grant him some time to secure the property and to make sure that he gets enough amp time to where he can get this case to where he can pretty much get some justice on what's been done. I mean, he done went through enough as it is, I would say. But if we can secure the property, allow him to secure the property, to keep things in order and to cut the grass and to do those things until he can get some justice out of what he's been through. And if I can offer a motion to do that, I would do so.
So we have a motion and a second now to condemn. So would you like to offer that as an amended motion?
Yeah.
Is that appropriate, Senator? Can we do it that way? Or should we take care of this first one first and?
So, yeah, if he's offering an opposite motion, which is not to condemn, then it would be more appropriate to take up the original motion and do a roll call.
Okay. All right. Hold that thought, Coach. I've got a couple of other people who want to speak. Mr. Lawler.
Yes, sir. Thank you, first of all, for coming tonight. You do have an attorney retained, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I don't need to ask you his name, but that's what I want to know.
Mr. Wagsback.
So mine is, my question is, if we do a substitute motion that he has to secure the property, do we also have to designate what that is? Is it a fence around it? I'm assuming part of Coach's
Yes.
motion, if we're gonna give him more time, would have to be, he has to have a fence up within a month. I mean, do we have to be specific about what that is?
I think
Can
we
we put those specifics in it, Kenneth?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess one more question for you. What, is there a court date in the near future, or is it, or we just don't?
We actually have a motion. We actually have a motion in now. We don't have a court date yet because it was really tough on me finding an attorney to represent me against the State Fire Marshal's office. And we had a timeline in order to be able to get it filed. So we haven't heard anything yet. We actually filed it on last month. So it was done in a timely manner before because we had 1 year in order to file a lawsuit. So I finally found an attorney that would represent me in this case. So I don't know as of yet when the first court date will be.
Okay.
Thank you.
One more question for
Yes, go
Kenneth.
ahead.
If we do vote against condemning the property, can we put a timeline on, if he has to secure it and then a timeline on we revisit it in a year? I mean, can we do all those things?
You can put a time limit on it, but what will have to be done is zoning or
Code enforcement?
Code enforcement.
yeah, they would have to go back out, do this, bring it back in front of you guys again.
Okay.
And just to get you to put it on the agenda to have you vote on it again, either to extend what you've already done or to vote to condemn it again.
Okay.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to condemn. Are there any objections? We have objections. Would you, we need a roll call, Madam Secretary. I voted.
Travis.
Mine's showing.
Travis. didn't
Travis?
vote.
Travis has voted too. His is showing. All right. So we have 2 yeas, 8 nays. Coach, if you'll now offer your motion.
Secure the property and to give him the extended time that he needs to secure it in the time limit that Mr. DePatty.
Yes, y'all can. Be specific on how long he has to secure it.
I would say 6 months. 6 months to a year.
To secure it? Or to?
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
How long do you want to give him to secure it?
A month.
Okay?
1 month.
And then how long before we revisit this?
Within I would think 6 months to a year.
Okay.
6
Well,
months.
let's,
A year.
let's make it a year because he's in a civil suit and we're going to assume that it is now secure and less of a hazard.
Make it a
Okay.
year.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second? Have a second by Mr. Wagasback. Are there any questions?
I would make a statement.
Go right ahead, Mr. Lawler.
I would advise that you speak with your attorney and let them know that you have a year on this and to act with all due diligence to get any evidence you need out of the house, because we certainly don't want to come back in a year and find out that either you or your attorney didn't take the steps you needed to get the evidence and to preserve that evidence during that time period. Because I'd venture to say in a year's period, if you come back and you still haven't gotten or preserved what evidence you needed to preserve, then we're probably going to have a difference of opinion at that time. So I would just talk to your attorney and let them know that you need to preserve that evidence and get any experts you may need within this next year. I don't want it to be a surprise to you.
I totally understand. I have one question. In securing the property, if we're saying that the reason why we're demoing the property is because people are going on the property, so if we secure the property, do we still have to demo the property?
Yes, in my opinion, certainly.
That'll be up to us.
It would be up to us in a year.
Okay, well, all right. Well, it won't, as soon as this is over with, I'll demo it myself. I mean, that won't be a problem where we have to come back and have you guys deal with that. I will take care of the responsibility of having it taken down myself.
We appreciate that, Mr. Miles. So we have a motion and a second. Are there any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Miles. Item B, condemnation proceedings for property located at 39272 Germany Road.
So this is a separate case we've been working on since 2018. Been in contact with the owner of the property. Went through a timeline of events you should have in your packet. If you refer to the pictures you have, you can see kind of deterioration over the last few years, and the structure has started to fall at this point. A portion of the structure was torn down by a neighboring property owner due to it being over the property line when they constructed a new home. So a portion of the structure is taken down, but it's beginning to actually fall. The rest of the structure is.
Have a motion by Mr. Lambert, a second by Mr. Melanson to proceed with condemnation. Is there anyone here that needs to speak? Yes. Please come forward.
Hello.
Hi. Pull that down to you a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely need it. My name is Tanja Christie. I'm the owner of the property. It has taken us a little while because of my husband's health issues. But we have contracted Ben Hood to tear it down. The reason it hasn't been torn down is because of the rains. He said he needed a couple days where it wasn't real, any rain to be able to get his equipment in there to actually tear it down. But we are planning to have that done. I've spoken with him recently, told him that I was coming here tonight. He said if he needed to provide any information for you guys, he would. I do have a contact number. I don't want to just give it out over the microphone. But I do have his contact information. I do have someone scheduled to tear it down. It sits on family property. It's far off from the road. It's not on the road. It's not on the main road. You have to pass 2 houses and turn before you actually get to it. The reason the wall, the wall has fallen down, a tree from Ida fell on it, and the whole wall and that cover part fell. And I think I took a picture of that, but you can see the tree clearly on it, and it happened in the hurricane, and it just fell. I mean, the house has seen better years, and we definitely want it torn down and cleared, because I want a she shed there, but my husband doesn't know that yet. So I hope he doesn't see this. But
It's getting late. He probably didn't make it.
Okay, but we do want it torn down, and we have contracted someone to have it done.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. Mr. Mason?
I'm Michael Mason. I'm the councilman of the district, and given the information that you've just provided, I'd like to grant her a 2-month extension, since she has somebody that contracted already, and we're now entering our drier season.
Yeah.
So I'd like to give her a 2-month extension to go ahead and knock it down herself, and then we can come back and revisit it if we need to.
Have a second. So wait a minute. We had a motion and a second to condemn, so we need to.
The 2-month extension for Mr.
All right, so we don't need to act on that first motion, and we will take up the second motion, which is the granting of 2 months, and then we'll revisit this at the end of 2 months. Please,
Is 2 months
Ms.
adequate? I
Christie.
probably should have asked. Is that an adequate amount of time for you?
I think it may be.
Okay. Do you want 3?
That may be better.
Can we change it to
I
3?
don't know what his schedule is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I have to rely on his time to get there. He hasn't given me a specific date that he would be there to do it, but he said that as long as he can get some time in there and at least have 2 solid days where there's no rain to get in there. Because like I said, it's family property. You have to pass 2 homes to get back there. And it's a lot of trees back there.
Well, let him know that we'll give you 3 months if we can,
I will.
Chairwoman, and then just tell him, say, I got 3 months, you gotta get this thing done.
Well, he said is when you all told me what I needed to do, to let him know.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second to grant a 90-day extension. You'll be coming back here, Ms. Christie, in 90 days if
Okay.
it's not done. So please get that taken care of. We'd much rather you tear it down than us. So thank you very
I'd
much.
much rather do that,
Are there
too.
any objections to that motion? Hearing none, that motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. It was great to see you again.
It certainly is. Y'all have a good evening.
You too. Hadn't seen her in a while. Yes, Dal.
I have a question.
Please, go right ahead, Mr.
So just so I understand this, and this is my ignorance, if we tear it down, do we charge the property?
It goes on
Okay.
tax roll.
Okay, I just wanted to understand that piece of it. Thank you.
Item C, condemnation proceedings for property located at 43318 Louisiana Highway 621.
Motion.
Have a motion for condemnation by Mr. Melanson, second by Mr. Lawler. Is anyone here representing the family? Yes, sir.
My name is Robert Melanson. I own the property.
You'll need to come up to the podium, sir, so we can hear you.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Melanson. Thank you for waiting.
The property belongs to me. It was given through inheritance to my parents from grandparents before. The house is older than I am. There's a lot of good wood in that home. I spoke to a contractor just the other day. He's working out of town. He wants to work with me, and I want to work with him to remove all the good wood out of the home and then tear out the rest of it and dispose of it as needed. As this time I'm out of work due to the pandemic. My company was closed in April of 20, and I've been out of work since. I'm doing some odd jobs on the side just to make money to get by. So any money put into this house for condemnation is going to go against the money that I need to pay bills. But again, I do want to work with this fellow whom I spoke with to get all the good wood out of the home, because I would like to take that and put it into something else to build.
Are there any questions, gentlemen? Any comments from the staff?
Yes, ma'am. I've actually made a couple visits out there myself. If you find, I have a letter attached to showing the percent of deterioration. Looks like a tree may have started the damage on this house, and then the walls eventually collapsed and the roof is starting to cave. In my opinion, at this point, that side of the house could collapse at any minute. I do agree that there may be some good wood left in it. We're just trying to look out for the safety of everybody involved.
Appreciate that.
Anyone, there's no one who visits the property other than myself to clean it, to keep the grass up. The grass behind in the pasture, I've let that go on purpose because of the neighbors. The very day I had a survey done to the property because there was a dispute with the neighbor. I've lived on that property since I was 4 years old. I think I know where the property line is. So I paid to have a survey done. The very day the survey was done, before I could even return home, the neighbor was out there removing the stakes, breaking them and throwing them over into my yard. At that point, that's when I decided I was just going to let the grass grow, because that neighbor's been a problem for years. He's rutted up the yard. He's disposed of his own trash into my property there and stuff. So I've let that grass grow on purpose behind the house. That's not the issue. The house is the issue. Again, I want to demolish the home myself. I don't want to see a bulldozer come in there and remove everything that's there now before I have the opportunity to take the good wood and the other stuff out of there that I need to.
We have a motion and a second to condemn. Are there any further questions or comments? Mr. Mason.
Yeah. How long do you need?
The gentleman who I'm working with, he's working out of town. He's going to come and see me this weekend. He does have a full plate, but he said he can probably start within a couple of months, before the end of the year.
Did he give you an estimate on how long the process would take?
No, sir, he didn't. He wants to come and look at the house and see what,
Okay.
what portion of the house is still good. The house is old, like I said. There's some good cypress floors. There's some good knotty pine walls in there. I would say about at least 60 to 70% of the house is still, there's enough there that could be salvaged. The roof is damaged. That west wall, as the gentleman spoke, a tree had fallen into that house. It caused some minor damage, and then my job just took me. I was a hotshot driver, and I used to spend a lot of time away from home, so I wasn't there. I spent more time on the road or living out of my office in the Baton Rouge area. So the house did just go by the wayside, and over time it self-imploded and stuff, if you will. So, but like I said, there's some damage there. I understand it's a hazard. It's an eyesore, should I say. As far as a hazard, I wouldn't say. There's no small kids around the neighborhood that comes into the house. And the only people that might be complaining about it are the two neighbors that I had mentioned that, that I've been having an issue with over the years and stuff. So, but that's all that I have.
No more questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wagsback.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, to stay consistent, I mean, I see that you've gotten multiple letters, but so has everybody else that's been up here tonight. I mean, I'm willing to do a substitute motion for a 90-day extension. But, I think if you come back in front of us, I think you have to, have some kind of definite timeline or something more solid to show progress.
I understand.
So I have a motion and a second to extend a 90-day, and then for you to return with progress.
I understand.
Are there any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes.
Thank you all.
You're welcome. Item D, approval of change order 001, Lamar Dixon area lighting upgrade, Doyle Electric, time extension 90 days due to COVID.
Motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Malasal and a second by Mr. Lambert. Are there any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Thank you, Dean. Good to see you. All right. Item E.
Don't be so rude, Dean.
Approval of the change orders. Don't go sit down. Stay right there. Approval of change order 002, Doyle Electric, filter plant electrical system upgrade. Project number PM 2008001 to add $12,129 and 88 days to the contract. I have a motion by Mr. Cagnolati, a second by Mr. Lawler. Are there any questions?
Let Dean say something. He's been here for
Dean, tell us something.
Tell us something.
How y'all doing this evening?
We're
Life's
good.
wonderful.
We're better than we expected. We're good.
Oh, I'm good too, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Dean, go home and get some sleep. Item F, approval of an RFP for emergency contract. I have a motion by Dempsey, a second by Mr. Mason, but I have Mr. Jarrett here, who wants to give us a very brief presentation. There you go. Could you cut that to 5? Please, tell us what we need to know.
Council, good to see y'all. This will be very, very brief. Just this is an update on the waterway assessment process for you all. Again, be very, very brief. So as of this moment, mileage assessed, 148 miles assessed on both the east and the west bank of the parish to this moment. Of that, you'll note that we have estimated over 2,200 downed trees in the waterways that have been assessed. You will see a list there on the screen that is a little too small for me to read, but you'll see some of those significant channels. It's upwards of 200 or 300 trees that have been identified through our assessment process. I should mention that assessment process is involving flying drones throughout. I will have some detailed pictures of that for you, and they are very telling. What we are focusing on right now is the flight data processing. What that is giving us are some very accurate pictures that we are able to provide to FEMA and hopefully future contractors to begin the removal process. This is just an image for y'all to give you an example of Bayou Manchac. What you will see on that image is several yellow dots throughout Bayou Manchac. Those are individual points of downed trees, and you'll just see the magnitude of the clustered trees in Bayou Manchac. These are images that we are getting from our subconsultant ELOS through their assessment process, flying those drones. Again, just very detailed images of the trees that we will need to go to FEMA for that reimbursement and justification process. These are images taken today. Ron, myself, and Jade went out on Bayou Manchac. This is chem spray actually in action. Oh, thank you. Sorry about that. This is chem spray in action. You will actually see them in the water in the far right-hand picture, actually removing trees. They are doing a phenomenal job out there. So the first images you saw of the severity of trees in Bayou Manchac was tremendously reduced through the actions of the parish and chem spray and what they've done thus far. So happy to say when we went out there today, Bayou Manchac was looking really, really good. This is an image of Bayou Conway. You'll see the severity of yellow dots on Bayou Conway. And again, some sample images that we are getting through the drone footage from our subconsultant ELOS. Same type of image for New River. Again, you see the severity of dots in New River. And sample images again from our subconsultant ELOS. New River in particular is another river that the parish has been working in. They have cleared a significant majority of New River. Again, the internal workforce, the effort has been tremendous to get these cleared. Everyone should be proud of their efforts. Example here on the west bank of Bayou Verret. Again, you'll see the yellow dots clustered toward the northern end of the bayou. Sample images from our subconsultant. Images of Bayou McCall on the west bank as well. Again, clustered closer to the city limits with similar images. So of that, to kind of round this out, the other half of this process is the permitting half. So we've been doing the assessment at the same time we're doing the permitting. As of this moment, we have 18 waterways that have been permitted, totaling 25.3 miles. We will use those waterways as our first task orders to hopefully begin debris removal. At the same time, we have began an emergency use authorization process for Bayou Conway, New River, and Panama Canal, because as you saw from the previous images, those are some of the most heavily affected areas. Last slide for y'all. The next steps that we hopefully would like to continue with is the actual debris removal operation. That is what I believe Finance will be presenting following myself. We will also be continuing the permitting and assessment process to stay ahead of the contractor as he removes. As we continue to permit, continue to assess, we'll continue to task order those out. And with that, I will turn it over to Finance.
Let me acknowledge some folks who'd like to ask you a question. I have one, Mr. Lawler.
Oh, no, it wasn't on that. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
It was on the other thing, but sorry. Forgot to press a button. Great presentation.
Perfect.
Thank you.
loved it.
Yes, Mr. President.
So we just found out that for the FEMA funding, for the match, after the 100%, instead of going to 25/75, they're going to 90/10. So
Excellent.
huge. That's a big time savings for us when any kind of matches that we got to come up with. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, sir. Great information. All right, thank you, Jared. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
So item F, approval of an RFP for emergency contract for Hurricane Ida Waterway Debris Removal Services, DRC Services.
Motion approved.
I have a motion by Mr. Melanson, second by Mr. Mason. Are there any questions?
This is where I had a question.
Now, go ahead, Mr. Lawler.
Yeah, I was just looking at the bids. I don't know who can answer this. They have 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, looking at the cost. This is for waterway removal, not land-based removal. So would we not consider 1A and 2A?
One is land-based and the other line item was water-based.
Yes, but if when it says emergency for waterway debris removal, are we doing any of 1A or 2A?
Do you have it with you?
Sure, if you don't mind, I'll take it. The concept of 1A and 2A, everything is waterway debris removal. Depending on the location of the debris, it can either be removed from a land-based machinery or water-based machinery if it's inaccessible from the bank.
That was my confusion. I was looking at the bid numbers and it looks like they were about even, but one was much lower for the waterway stuff, and the only big difference was like a $10. So the cost really wasn't. If 1A and 2A we weren't doing those, then we'd save a lot more money if we went with the second bid. And I guess that's my question. Do we know how much we're going to be doing land-based versus water-based?
So this is primarily going to be a water-based contract. The majority of the funds spent will be through that water-based item.
And about how many? I'm not asking for an exact amount. I have no idea if it's 10, 100, 1,000 cubic yards are we looking at here.
So we don't have a cubic yard estimate right now. We would anticipate this would be a several $1 million project, though.
Okay, so it'd be a lot of cubic yards, though.
It would be a lot of cubic yards.
And that was, I just did the math, just for 100 cubic yards, we'd save about $936. So if we're talking, I mean, this could be a lot of money.
It will be a significant amount of money. We anticipate it will be.
Okay, I mean, I'll make a substitute motion that we go with the second bidder because they have a lower price on the water-based pickup by, let's see, about $13 on one and about $10 on the other. Which if we're doing primarily water-based pickup, we're talking about saving a lot of money there on per cubic yard.
Is that on the 1B?
That's 1B. The difference is $94 to $79.50.
So I did call and negotiate the DRC rate, and they said that they would negotiate with us, so I negotiated down to $80. So that was comparable of what, I'm sorry, I thought that was in the packet. So I was able to negotiate that down. We did make a phone call, Ron, myself, Jay, Dustin, and Jared. And we did talk about that. We called DRC and they agreed to do 80. I did receive that in writing and I did send that to legal.
That makes a big difference.
That was a concern as well. So yes, it's 80, which was the same as the second bidder, I think was $79.50.
Correct. And like 2B, it was about $9 difference.
Yes, I'm sorry, I thought that was in the packet, but yes, that was done.
Okay.
So you're withdrawing your second?
I'll withdraw my second.
All right, very good. All right, we have a motion.
Just trying to save some money.
Yeah.
We have a motion
Y'all
and a
did too.
second.
So yes, we took care of that.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all doing that. We have a motion and a second. Are there any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job. Moving along to item 10, planning and zoning recommendations. A, zoning review, ID PZ 2707.21 for Palo Alto Incorporated, located on the east and west side of Highway 405, approximately 10,000 feet, 1.89 miles north of Louisiana Highway 1 North, to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from conservation and medium industrial to mixed use and light industrial, medium industrial, and high industrial. The zoning commission recommended approval. We will be making a motion to accept or deny the recommendation of the planning commission. I have Mr. Cagnolati with a motion to accept, with a second by Mr. Mason. Are there any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item B, zoning review, ID PZ 2623.21, Lot A1 of the Cloverdale subdivision for Linfield Hunter and Junius Incorporated, a SPUD, major use change, located on the west side of LA 73, approximately 110 feet north of Southwood Village Avenue. Joint Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval with certain stipulations. One was limited to a 17-foot box-style truck. No semi-trucks was number 2, and 3 was no fuel or hazardous material storage. 4 was no fabrication allowed in the laydown yard. So we have a recommendation to approval. This body's being asked to accept or deny that recommendation for approval. Motion to accept. I have a motion by Mr. Mason to accept and a second by Mr. Lawler. Are there any questions? Any objections?
Does Mr. Fournier have anything to add
Mr.
to that?
Fournier, do you need to add anything?
No, this matter came before you in August. You had asked for the 4th stipulation on it. We went back to the Joint Zoning and Planning Commission. They put that, and now we're coming back to you for final approval.
Thank you. Are there any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item 11, introduction of ordinances. Keep in mind it only takes one motion to introduce. A, introduction of an ordinance to amend the Ascension Parish Code of Ordinances, Chapter 6, Article 8, dangerous buildings. Have a motion by Councilman Lambert to introduce. Item B, introduction of an ordinance to amend the Ascension Parish Code of Ordinances, Chapter 5, Article 3, animal control, to change the rules on the amount of time an animal must be impounded before adoption, and have a motion by Councilman Mason to introduce. Item C, introduction of an ordinance to amend the pay classification plan to add positions and to revise labor grade for Human Resources Director. Have a motion by Mr. Mason to introduce. Item D, introduction of an ordinance to amend the Ascension Parish Code of Ordinances, add an ordinance regarding stormwater management.
Motion introduced.
Have a motion by Councilman Lawler to introduce. Item E, introduction of an ordinance to amend the 2021 budget and appropriate the 2022 budget for Ascension Parish government. I have a motion by Mr. Mason to introduce and a question by Mr. Cagnolati, who didn't light up, he raised his hand. What you got, Mr. Cagnolati? Oh, was that just for the introduction? Oh, okay, good enough. We had 2 people introduced. Item F, introduction of an ordinance to amend an ordinance adopted on November 1, 2007 to transfer 1 international 6-yard dump truck to the city of Donaldsonville, correcting the vehicle identification number and the model year. Have a motion by Mr. Mason to introduce. Have a motion to go into executive session for A, Boone Services LLC versus Ascension Parish Government. Please vote.
Chairwoman Casso.
Yes.
I think we're passing on Boone, on the first one, on Boone Services.
Okay.
So we actually are going in on B. Is that correct, Kenneth? Yes.
So we're passing on item A. Well, we need to do this over again because that was not the motion. The motion was to approve A. So let's start over now. Let's say we're not going to be using A, and now we are going to act on executive session B, a Robert Family Partnership donation.
Motion to go into executive session.
I have a motion by Mr. Melanson to go into executive session. Vote.
So if you put those poles, I think you stop that.
like to make a motion to go into executive session.
Whoa, we got a product of the last executive session.
No, I thought they didn't.
Yes, they did.
I need to make a motion, I'd like to make a motion to authorize our legal team to negotiate a settlement.
Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. It's
Go
gonna,
ahead, Speedy.
go ahead now.
Motion to enter to executive session for item 12C.
Everybody vote, please. And let's go do it again.
If we're being official, he'd be Speedy Sanchez.
Speedy Sanchez. Come on, Speedy Sanchez.
You didn't vote.
Thank you, Jared.
Go ahead and press them, Terry.
All right. Y'all have consider yourself fussed. We have a motion to reconvene.
Motion to authorize additional funds for the settlement of this, the pending matter. We don't need a specific amount, right?
On this one, just, to amend it from the 18,000 from last executive session to 18,600.
Okay, so we'll amend it to 18,600. I don't think we did 18 last time.
And to allow them to negotiate
Negotiate the settlement.
the settlement.
For pain and
Pain and
suffering.
suffering.
Oh, and to allow them to negotiate this, I don't.
You got it
And to
now,
allow the
Aaron? You want to deliver that again?
Yes, we'll authorize settlement of the property damage for 18,600, and we'll authorize our legal counsel to negotiate a pain and suffering settlement.
Have a motion and a second for the stated motion. Are there any objections?
None.
Hearing none, that motion passes. Everybody vote.
You got a vote? They got you right, or not? No, not at all.
All right. Gentlemen, the chair would entertain a motion to reconvene.
Motion to reconvene.
I have a motion by Councilman Melanson to reconvene. Mr. Lawler.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Making a motion that we authorize a property damage settlement in the amount of $46,819.11. In addition, we authorize our legal counsel to negotiate a personal injury settlement of up to $50,000.
Have a motion as read. I have a second by Mr. Cagnolati. Are there any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn, and we thank the members of the Ascension Parish Sheriff's Office who were here with us tonight. Thank you so much. Be safe out there, and all the staff who has remained with us. Gentlemen, everybody drive safe.